welcome one and welcome all. This is the Lifelong Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Molly from Three Pines Leadership. Woo! How is everyone doing today? Because, surprise, surprise, we made it through yet another rapture. That's right, there was a whole collection of people who were under the impression that July 22nd, 2020 was going to be the end of the world. And I am happy to report we've made it, my friends. We have made it. I don't know if that means we're on the good side of this or the bad side of this, or it's not anything. Who cares? But we've made it. We've survived. Today, I want to share with you a quick little discussion about communication. We don't learn enough about communication when we're growing up. We think it's just talking and listening, but there is so much more to it. So let's talk about it. Yes, listening is the very first thing we need to talk about, because strong observational skills are needed to fully understand the message that the sender is sending to us. Listening isn't what happens with your ears. Your ears hear things. Listening happens in your brain. It's when you take in the message and you make a meaning of it. So we're not listening when we're engaged in a conversation and we're just thinking about what the next thing we're going to say is. That's not listening. That's maybe hearing 20% of what the person's saying and then immediately jumping into our own heads. Remember, multitasking is a lie. You can't hear and talk at the same time. You can't hear and listen and think about what you're going to be talking about next. It just doesn't work. The second skill about communication that we need to remember to focus on is our body language. All of those nonverbal cues, they send so much information. They say that only 7% of a message that's sent is actually the words that are used. The majority of it has to do with our body language and our inflection. So if you're standing there with your arms crossed and a really scowling face on your look, but you're telling someone that you're excited to see them, you're happy for them, etc., there's going to be, again, an incongruency in that message. What you're showing is not what you're saying. So when you stand there with your arms crossed, pretend that the world is on mute. It doesn't matter what the words are that are coming out of your mouth. What does your body language tell the world? What kind of message are you sending in that respect? Are you excited to see people? Are you happy? Or are you kind of upset, etc.? Think about how other people's body language affects how you feel. You can walk into a room and immediately understand the temperature of the room, the social temperature of the room, by people's body language. Think about it. The third thing I need you guys to understand when it comes to your communication skills is to remember to be clear and concise. Choosing the right words is really important. That's why I'm not the biggest fan of reactionary comments. I would much rather have an opportunity to sit down, think about what I need to say, and sometimes even sleep on it. We need to be concise in our speech. We need to use the right words. Don't just repeat what other people are saying. That's like regurgitating headlines when you're not actually understanding the problem beneath it and behind it. So make sure that you're using the right words, you're being precise in your speech, and you're being clear about the message that you're trying to share with people. Again, think about the world on mute. Look at your body language. What kind of message is that sending? Look at the words you're saying separate from your body language. What exactly are you saying? Look at all of that. The fourth thing is tying off of that is to be concise. So you don't necessarily need to use a ton of words to get your message across. My favorite example is the Gettysburg Address. It's like 272 words or something like that, but it was such a revolutionary speech, and it took Abraham Lincoln way, way longer than you'd think to write it because he wanted to be concise in his speech. He wanted to use the right words to portray the right meaning. I urge you to do that. And I'm not saying you have to sit there and study the dictionary. No, 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 no. Play a couple games of Scrabble maybe, but the easiest way to increase your vocabulary is to read more. Read really good books where authors play with words and they use them to paint pictures for you. It's a great way so that you can also start to paint those same kinds of pictures with the words that you're using. You can create visual images in your reader or in your listeners' minds with the right words. The other thing is confidence. If you are weak in your belief of what you're saying, it's going to come across. If you are shaky in your voice because you don't fully believe in what you're talking about, it's going to come across. So have confidence in yourself, have confidence in what you're talking about. And it's okay to understand that you might not know something, you might have failed, you might not have the perfect answer that's going to give you the gold star, and that's okay. Be confident in that vulnerability, and you will blow people away. Because you're there to solve a problem. You're there to give your information and participate in a discussion, for example. You're not there to be picked apart and be awarded some kind of thing. We're all flawed. We all have had made mistakes in the past. It's what you do with those mistakes. So find confidence in that. That's all I'm going to say about that one. Going off of that as well, kind of a humbling of confidence is to make sure that you're personable. You don't want to be that overly confident person that feels unapproachable. Engage with other people. Ask them questions. Show that you're a real person. It goes off of that confidence of being confident in your mistakes. That shows that you're a real person. And if you can shine light on your own flaws, that helps other people kind of be at ease as well. And remember, when it comes to being personal, one of the best things that you can do is show gratitude to someone else. Say thank you to someone, even if it was for something really small that they wouldn't expect to thank you for. That way, you're going to show them that what they did for you was of value. You recognize that value, you respect that value, and therefore you respect them. And in turn, they're going to want to spend more time with you. They're going to want more of that gratitude flowing their way. And this has to do with the chemicals in our brain, because when someone says thank you, when someone acknowledges us, that makes us feel really good. It sends off a cluster of chemicals in our brain that makes us feel great and excited, and we want to hunt for more of that. We want to get away from pain and towards pleasure. And that is a feeling of pleasure. And the very last thing that they definitely, I know we tried to work on it when we were in grade school and high school, but I think we could spend a little bit more effort and energy focusing on patience. Patience is so important when we're talking about communicating. So I'm working on a project right now that has to do with debating, like formalized debating. And one of the things that's part of this process is creating a new framework for this formalized debate. And the other people on this project, we come from the world of parliamentary debating, where there are very strict rules about who's talking when and for how long and what you're talking about. And we love that. We're modifying it to be something a little bit different, a little bit more modern, to bring about moments of change within a debate. We're messing around with the structure, and I am really excited to tell you all about that when I'm allowed to. But right now, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is this discussion we had about how much we love that formalized structure. And what we love about it is that people aren't talking over each other, and people are each speaker is given an allotted amount of time to get their point across, to give their argument, to give their supporting evidence, etc. And what this does, because of the format, the back and forth kind of format, it forces the other side to listen. Not to just hear, but to listen, because they have to come up with a rebuttal. They have to have counter arguments that come up to this. And you have to sit there and you have to listen. You have to be patient. You can't just bark back at them because you heard something you didn't like. The world of communicating is not like Twitter. We don't just get a few characters to respond really quick and in a timely manner. No, you need to be patient. You need to have time to let those messages sink in, to create connections, to sit and ponder these ideas. Some of my favorite philosophers, like Spinoza, for example, he was a lens polisher. That was his job. And he loved it because it allowed him the time to think. It was a task, a repetitive task that you didn't have to think much about. So while he was doing that, his mind was able to wander, and he was able to use that time to think about things and to create connections and to come up with some of the greatest philosophical concepts of our time. And so I encourage you to find opportunities to be patient, to sit with what you're learning, to sit with what you're hearing in the world, and to think about how that connects to you and your experience and your knowledge and what you've learned from others around you. So those are my 7 or so little tips about increasing your effectiveness when it comes to communicating. Remember, communicating is not just sending a message. It's sending a message with our body, our facial expressions, the words we use, the inflections we have. It has to do with our confidence, how we walk into a room, how we connect and are personable with other people. And it also has to do with how that message is received and percolated and understood. Give each other the respect that each other deserves by listening to what each other has to say. Listen to the ideas that people have to offer. Listen to the experiences they have to bring to the table. You might not agree with them, but they do offer a different perspective and insight. We're dealing with big, wild, wicked problems in the world these days, and we need more people to be able to effectively communicate so that we're not just butting heads. It's not an us versus them, a me versus we situation, so that we can start collaborating. We can start working together for a better future. I'm Coach Molly from Three Pines Leadership. This is the Lifelong Podcast, and thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you next episode for some more inspiration, knowledge, and stuff about life. Until next time, everyone, remember, I love you and be excellent